There seems to be a 10-second clip that's circulating around the internet regarding Lindsey Graham, something that he said during an interview. I thank the Most High that I've always been a person that I wanted to hear the full story. I never take the media at its word. And like I mentioned in prior videos, I never really trust printed news articles, especially if they're quoting someone in printed form. I always want to hear the video. And even while watching a video, you also have to be mindful that they will take snippets of something someone said, twist it to make it appear to be something that it's not. Now, of course, they want to make Lindsey Graham a white supremacist. They want to make Lindsey Graham a racist. They want to make it appear that South Carolina is full of racist people. This is the 10-minute clip that everyone seems to be going crazy over. Check this out.
About everybody. If you're a young African American, an immigrant, you can go anywhere in this state. You just need to be conservative, not liberal. I care about...
Now, if you listen to that, and that only, and just go according to what the printed text say, I can see why so many so-called black Americans will be offended and get upset. But like I said, I've always been a person that I want to hear the full story. So when I first heard that clip, the first thought came to my mind was, in what context was he speaking? What was the question that was asked to him for him to so freely give that answer? That would be considered political suicide if he was saying it in the context in which the Democrats are making him appear to say it. So I started trying to find the full video. And to my surprise, it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It was very difficult because the only articles I came across was that 10-minute snippet or printed material or videos that other so-called black people posted on YouTube, and that was upset, was saying that he was a racist and a white supremacist, was saying that how does he expect for black people to vote for him because of what he said. The Democratic media made it appear that he was saying that black people cannot feel comfortable being in South Carolina or going anywhere in South Carolina unless they're conservatives. So I found the whole video. I've learned what context he was speaking in, and I'm about to show you in a few minutes. And when I listened to that context in which he spoke and the question that was asked, I agree with him. I agree with him because we're now in times where not only you can't believe everything that you hear, especially when it comes to Trump-hating media, but you have to make sure that you put it in its proper context because the media feeds off of the emotions of black people. They feed off of the ignorance of black people because they know in most cases black people are not going to seek out the truth. They're just going to take the words of CNN, MSNBC, CBS, Newsweek, and all of these other fake news media outlets. So I'm going to play the context. Now, first of all, I'm going to even go back a little further because there's two questions that was asked. One question was asked regarding systematic racism, which everybody seems to be up in arms about. This is what people are accusing Trump administration of being racist. A lot of which, when it comes to the truth, you really don't hear the truth on fake news media. They give you what they want you to hear. The second question is regarding civil unrest, in which is when he said young black people can go anywhere in South Carolina as long as they're conservative. Now, you have to look at the context in which he's speaking. The context in which he's speaking is political. You can go anywhere in the political arena in South Carolina as long as you're conservative and not liberal. Because we know that there's many liberals, Democrats, far left, that would love to flip the state. They would love to flip South Carolina from red to blue, just like they did Virginia. So he's basically saying what I've always been saying. Democrats, you're fleeing Democrat states because you don't like what's going on, because of the people you voted into office. So now you're going to move to a Republican state with a Democrat mentality and going to try to flip that state. So he's basically saying, don't come here with that liberal mentality that's creating all of this ruckus that we find going on in this country in Democratic states. But I'm going to let you hear for yourself, and then you be the judge. I'm going to play it back to both questions. One regarding systematic racism and the other civil unrest. Listen for yourself.
Mnuchin are talking again. Count me in for another stimulus package, but we have to have liability protection so our businesses are not sued out of existence.
Thank you, Senator. Ford.
Our next topic, Senator, is criminal justice. In the debate last week, you said you did not believe there was systemic racism in our law enforcement. So the question is, as a Congress, what legislation can protect Americans from police brutality?
So, number one, let me say this. Reform the police, yes. What happened to Mr. Floyd was wrong, and people should pay a price. But what's happening in America and in all over the country is a war on the police itself. There are some bad cops out there. I've been a prosecutor, I've been a defense attorney, I've been a military judge. Count me in the camp of reforming the police, but having the cops back. I've been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of the Police because they see in me an ally. I voted for criminal justice reform to make sure that African American males and Hispanic males, mostly who've been sentenced to long times in jail for nonviolent offenses, can get a second chance. Tim Scott, my dear friend and partner here in South Carolina, produced a police reform bill that was bipartisan, and Chuck Schumer stopped it from coming to the floor. They said no to Tim Scott's effort to find a solution to police reform. Transparency, more money for diversity, hiring more minority police officers. It was stopped because they want the issue. They don't want to solve the problem. That breaks my heart. And Jamie Harrison, my opponent, supported the Nancy Pelosi version of police reform and said no to the Tim Scott version of police reform. He will pick Pelosi over Tim Scott every time. He will go with Schumer when it comes to judges, and that's what's on the ballot here, folks. Count me in for reforming the police. Tim Scott had a plan that was blocked by Democrats. Nancy Pelosi plan will cripple the police. So Mr. Harrison had a chance to weigh in and be bipartisan. He chose Pelosi over Tim Scott. I did not.
Thank you, sir. Carolyn.
Senator Graham, our next subject is the issue of civil unrest in this country. Social change in this country has come about when women and racial minorities have marched and protested. Sometimes that's resulted in rioting. Certainly no one supports lawlessness. You have said in the past that you support Black Lives Matter. Have you met with members of that organization, first of all?
I met with pastors. I met with people in the African American community, and here are the facts. Do I believe our cops are systemically racist? No. Do I believe that South Carolina is a racist state? No. And let me tell you why. To young people out there of color, to young immigrants, this is a great state. The one thing I can say without any doubt, you can be an African American and go to the Senate. You just have to share the values of our state. Tim Scott is in the Senate. He's the only African American Republican in the country. Nikki Haley is a daughter of Indian immigrants raised in Denmark, South Carolina. She became a governor. In South Carolina, folks, it's not about the color of your skin or where you came from. It's about your ideas. The reason I'm going to win this race is because my ideas, my conservative philosophy, my willingness to reach across the aisle fits our state. I'm in line with Tim Scott and Nikki Haley. My opponent's going to lose, not because of race, but because he's aligned with the most liberal people in the country. He's raising $50 million from liberals all over the country to flip this state into the Democratic column. It's not going to work. So count me in for reforming the police. I voted for the First Step Act that gave African American males and Hispanic males who've been imprisoned under the Joe Biden Three Strikes You Out bill. President Trump led the way. I worked with Cory Booker. There are a lot of people getting out of jail who were sentenced to long terms in jail for nonviolent offenses. They can go back to their families. They can get a job. 31% of our state is African American. I'm asking to every African American out there, look at my record. I've been supporting historically black colleges and universities, and I'm glad President Trump has made it a permanent fixture now. We don't have to beg every year for the money. I care about everybody. If you're a young African American, an immigrant, you can go anywhere in this state. You just need to be conservative, not liberal.
Did you hear that? Now, it's also interesting that the interviewer, the female, is a black woman. She didn't condemn him. She wasn't offended by what he said because there was nothing wrong with what he said. He was speaking politically. They can go anywhere in South Carolina politically as long as they have a conservative idea or a conservative mentality, because you have too many Democrats that's fleeing Democrat states, running to Republican states, and voting the same way that they ran from, creating the same conditions that they ran from. That's all he's saying. He said nothing in his statement racist. As a matter of fact, it sounded like he was defending blacks. He was trying to help blacks, not harm blacks, but to listen to Trump-hating media. They would have you thinking. They would take little small clippets and run with it and say, this is what he said about black people. He's a racist. Why would anybody vote for him? But when you go back and listen to the question that was asked and you listen to his whole answer, then you would get a full understanding of what was said. So feedback, tell me what you think, subscribe, click on the Cash App, donate to the channel. Until next time, I'm fearless.